Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another, I don't know what to call this. I was going to originally put these kinds of things under tabletops and taverns, but that became more kind of a discussion about the actual rules and concepts of role-playing. So let's just call this, RPG Storytime. We'll do it that. I've done one of these before. I called it like a vlog about a battle in a Pathfinder game I had. I actually had a couple things come up in a freeform role-playing channel that I am a operator in. And I thought that I would go ahead and touch on them. Number one, because they address a concept in role-playing games which I kind of really want to talk about. But on another, it's just the primary one is just fucking hilarious. So I will go ahead and just go ahead. I'll tell a little bit of a story here. This video, these stories, are going to be all about consequences in role-playing. Now, I'm going to give you consequences for in-character actions in role-playing, but that's kind of like huge, so I'm probably just going to go with the consequences in role-playing. Okay. Before I start, let me go ahead and explain what a freeform role-playing channel is, for those who do not know. A lot of my viewers are familiar with tabletop role-playing. That is, role-playing using a set of rules. Dungeons & Dragons, the Storyteller series, GURPS, whatever. But they basically put rules so that you can role-play within a construct or within a framework and then expect certain results for certain actions. What freeform role-playing is, and I believe that it's actually more common in kind of chat programs and forums and that kind of thing than an actual tabletop setting. What freeform role-playing is that as long as you are playing something in the that fits the setting, you can play anything. And character actions are resolved by mutual consent. So if you have your character attack someone else's character, you post the attack and any details you want on the attack, and then they respond accordingly. And they can either have their character dodge it, they can have their character take the hit, whatever. But it has to fit their character's known abilities or their character's perceived abilities and the constraints of the setting, And for the most part, it's only done by mutual consent. There are a couple instances where somebody makes a character that never takes a hit or whatever, and we in the channel I'm talking about, we have moderators, and not all of them are operators, being the actual mods of the channel, but we've got some players that can also bump into that moderation role. It escaped me. And it's basically like a dungeon master. They look at the situation and they evaluate the results. Very, very rarely do they have to step in. A lot of times, the only time they step in is when there's an actual adventure or storyline going on, in which case they can actually run the whole storyline just like a DM would at a tabletop game. Anyway, I am a mod in this particular role-playing channel. It's a medieval, free-form role-playing channel. It's got a 20-plus year real-life history. I've been playing there since the late 90s. I've got a variety of characters, but because of my position as one of the moderators and one of the people that runs the storylines a lot, I have very few characters. I mean, I've got a handful of characters, but very few characters that make regular appearances in character, because mostly I end up playing villains and NPCs, and even the main characters I play a lot tend to be on the villainous side simply to support other people's storylines. Okay, and those of you who are Dungeon Master at the tabletop game a lot probably know what I'm talking about. Once you get in that DM seat, everybody expects you to run everything, and you have a hard time actually playing the game and being a player, unless your group is courteous and rotates the role. Like in my tabletop game, I'm like the go-to DM guy. I very rarely get to actually play a character. Anyway, back to what I was saying. In this freeform chat, we've recently had an influx of new players. and they've been playing a variety of things from high power to low power. One of the instances happened probably a few weeks ago now, in which there was a confrontation in the middle of a crowded inn. And just because there's not a lot of player characters in the inn, and it's a major inn in a major tavern in a major city, and just because not a lot of actual player characters were actually playing at the moment in that inn, doesn't mean the inn is empty. It is, after all, a heavily trafficked tavern in a heavily trafficked area of the city. So the result is you can expect a certain number of non-player characters kind of milling around, ordering drinks, sitting at the table chatting, that sort of thing. That kind of thing that a dungeon master would add for effect. Now, one of the players involved was playing a kind of pyromancer. I should take that back. In this particular confrontation, 3 of the PCs involved had some sort of fire magic going. I mean, we had 2 pyromancers and a natural talent that had a natural ability to throw fire. But this confrontation kind of got heated, and they started arguing, and one of them was accusing the other of basically harassing her for no reason. And then somebody else strolled over and stepped in, and somebody else came in and tried to break it up. And it got to the point where fists were about to fly. It was about to develop into a proper bar brawl. And the moderators kind of, if it looks like it's going to be something dangerous, we get people who play guards to come in. But on occasion, we let things develop, because who doesn't like a good bar brawl, right? Who doesn't like a good fantasy tavern, everybody on top of one another bar brawl? Because they're fun to watch, they're fun to play in. But anyway, as tempers started flaring, as words started getting exchanged, one of the people involved started to throw a punch, and then one of the bystanders who'd been trying to break it up said, okay, his exact post was something like, I wonder if the inn is I think the inn is fireproof, because it is. Oh well, no time to think about that. I cast a wall of fire between the two. Now, that is all of the detail he gave. Didn't tell what direction the wall of fire in. He didn't say he was looking around to see if anybody else was around the area. He didn't say how far the wall of fire extended. And in fact, it could be argued that since he was in a rush, since his character didn't have time to even think about whether or not the inn was fireproof, that he was doing it in haste. He was just, boom, wall of fire. And so what happened was I was thinking about that, and I was like, this man just cast a wall of fire in the middle of a crowded inn. Just because there's only like 5 or 6 player characters in the inn at the time doesn't mean there's not a bunch of NPCs milling around, going to get their drinks, barmaids going to deliver drinks, people sitting in the corner chatting, whatever. So we don't have an official map of the inn, but we've got a couple of close approximations. And I was sitting there from their previous post thinking, well, they're all sitting in tables in the middle of the inn. They're not on the side of the inn. They're not towards the bar. They're in the middle of the fucking common room, right? And so I was drawing lines, trying to figure out a way, trying to figure out which of these lines goes through 2 people in the middle of the inn and doesn't hit something on the periphery. I couldn't find a single way to draw that line and not have that wall of fire hit somebody. So I was like, okay, a few peasants burst into flames and start screaming and running around as the wall of fire cuts through them. And the player who cast the wall of fire immediately rage quit. Said, "Oh, you're treating me like my character's an idiot," and so forth, so forth. Which they had some sort of background. I mean, they had some sort of reasoning behind that. You shouldn't automatically assume your player's characters are stupid. However, he explicitly said his character was in a rush, and he did not give any sort of details on how the wall of fire was arranged, how long it was, and so on and so forth. So yeah, we as mods said, okay, yeah, you set some people on fire. You didn't kill anybody, but you damn near did. And they didn't want to deal with the consequences of their character's actions, so they quit. They later came back and apologized, which I think was awful good of them. But I still maintain that the initial response where they threw a fit. I don't know if you've seen The Gamers. It's a classic movie about tabletop gaming by Dead Gentleman Productions. I believe you might be able to catch it online somewhere. They're like on number 4 of the series now, or something like that, 3 or 4, whatever. They've turned it into a veritable YouTube series. But in the original film, The Gamers, there was one portion at the end where they find this trapped room and their thief is starting to cross it and he triggers a trap. So he says, wait. As a thief, I wouldn't simply walk into the room. I would search for traps. And so the DM says, okay, whatever. Lets him roll. And he rolls and he gets killed by a trap again. He says, wait. As a master thief, my character would know to crawl an inch at a time on his belly checking for traps. And he gets killed by a trap anyway. But that whole, that player character's whole, as a master wizard, I would know not to throw a wall of flame across a crowd of people. And I was thinking, this sounds familiar here. I think I've heard this thing before. But except that he literally said, I throw a wall of flame through the middle of the, through between these people in the middle of the inn. And there was no way around that. There was no way I could make an argument where the wall of flame didn't hit somebody. So that's consequences in role-playing. Your character has to face the consequences of their actions. They did come back. We did resolve it. But that's my first story. The second story is much funnier. And if you're still with me at this point, I'm 12 minutes in, whatever. If you're still with me in this is the same channel. And one of the other mods had started a storyline where he had this dragon kind of sweeping over this province to the north of the city and slowly subduing town after town. Now, some of the players in the channel decided, hey, there's a dragon up there, and even though he's not threatening the city that the channel is set in, we're still going to go after him because, hey, it's a dragon slaying adventure. And those are fun, right? And because I never get to play, because I'm always one of the dungeon masters, I'm always one of the mods, I'm always running storylines, I said, I'd like to play in that. So I went ahead and started looking through my characters to see who could participate in this dragon slaying adventure. But the thing about it is that the other players who had decided to start it were treating it almost like an MMO style pickup group. And if you've played MMOs, you know how good those usually do. So basically what happened was one of the players played a guard. And his guard character is like roughly based off of was roughly based on some sort of Final Fantasy 14 class, the Dragoon or something. I don't know. I don't play that game. But so he rolls on in, newly minted city guard, because he just joined the guard like about 3 or 4 weeks prior. And he rolls in and he says, hey, I heard that there's a shadow dragon taking over cities north of here. Does anyone want to go kill it? That's all he says. Anybody want to go kill the dragon? It's time to slay the dragon. I should have known right there that this was not going to go well because they had no plan. There was no discussion of, how do I go about finding out where the dragon is? No, there was just guard rolls in. Hey, anybody want to go kill the dragon? So the first person that chimes in is playing a mercenary character. And they've actually got a pretty badass kind of mercenary setup. But it's a relatively new character. And they had asked permission, to have this character's reputation go around as this real badass, killer mercenary kind. And we said yes, because the channel has all sorts of characters, all sorts of power levels, from a peasant to, not demigods, but just shy of. So there's a lot of variety, a lot of power level variety in this channel. And so this mercenary rolls up and says, "Sure, I'll go ahead and go with you to kill the dragon." Still no mention as to how they're gonna get there, where this dragon actually lives, aside from just a province to the north, anything like that. So I'm sitting there going, well, I want to participate in this because I never get to play, but this is looking increasingly stupid. So what I did was I looked through my character list. And as I've mentioned before, a lot of my well-developed characters are actually villains because I end up doing a lot of support for other people's storylines in this channel. I've got a couple paladins here and there, but I didn't really, feel like busting them out at that moment. So what I did was I picked a character that I had transferred from a tabletop game quite some time ago. And this is actually an AD&D First Edition character. I'm pointing at the wrong area of my shelf. An AD&D First Edition character who was a dwarven fighter thief. Except that he wasn't just a dwarf. He's a Duergar, or a Duergar, or a Duergar. I don't know how to pronounce it. He's the dark dwarves, the ones that can change size and go invisible and shit. And not only is he evil, he's flat out chaotic evil. He is a psychopath, and he is a gleeful psychopath. He doesn't break things just to break things. He breaks things to have fun. So there is a little bit of a difference there, but oh man, he has so much fun breaking things. So this character, since I've been playing in the channel for some time, I've been playing this particular character in that channel for, I think, close to 8 years now. And in those 8 years, he's done some crazy shit and basically got an in-character reputation that didn't involve just asking the mods, hey, can my character have this reputation? No, he earned that reputation. He earned a reputation as a murderous bastard. He earned a reputation as a thief and a bandit. At one time, he put the entire setting almost on a state of war because of his shenanigans. He caused an international incident. So I have this character role in. It probably was not kind of me. But I had this character role in. He's called Grimblade because he's actually named Dunagal Runson, but people call him Grimblade because one of his two major items is a cursed sword. And since it's freeform, this cursed sword probably goes a little bit above and beyond what you'd expect of most magic items in AD&D. It's a cursed sword in that he can't attack with his main hand without it popping into his hand. But it also drains blood from any wounded living beings around him. Not in a huge radius, but in a little bit of a radius around him. So if they're in his general vicinity, if they're in the same room or something, then it'll drain their blood and use it to heal the wielder. So it's basically an AE health drain, which is incredible and is a little bit overpowered, but at the same time, it's about on par with a lot of the shit other people are wielding in a freeform channel. It also drains magic in the same way. But oddly enough, I've had it drain magic. I've had less opportunity for it to drain magic and heal the wielder simply because not a lot of people cast on this character for some reason. They don't throw spells at him. I don't know why. He's an evil bastard. You'd think he'd be target of many spells, but I think he ends up draining blood 9 or 10 times for every spell he drains. Anyway, it's hardly worth mentioning. So I have Grimblade roll on in. And keep in mind, the guy that's forming the party is playing a city guard. So he's bound and sworn to uphold the law. So my chaotic evil dwarf rolls on in and says, hey, I heard you guys I can't do the accent. I heard you bastards are going after that flying lizard in the north. I heard you need a crazy motherfucker to tank it. So what you think? You got a room for me? And the guard is like, aren't you wanted? And my dwarf is like, yeah, I'm wanted. Well, who else you gonna get? Who else you gonna find that's gonna go ahead and stick themselves right up in front of a fucking dragon? I had my trouble with the law. You want to call peace on this? We're gonna go ahead and call a truce. I'll go ahead and help you take that dragon out. And so the guy that's playing the guard, a new guard who is still on, basically on employment parole till they find out what he's doing, thinks for a minute and he says, yeah, sure, why not? Sure, working with this mass murdering dwarf sounds like a grand idea. So they set up a time to meet in like a week to go ahead and go after the dragon. And I'm expecting the rest of the group to do some footwork in character before that week is through, and basically research where the lair is, find out where they need to go, that sort of thing. And so I have my character during that week on and off, because it's all real-time play. It's not downtime. You say you're going to meet in a week, you meet in a real-time week, and you get all that time in between to do whatever you want. And so I had my character basically going about getting a little bit more equipment, things tailored to this particular dragon. Because unbeknownst to my character, he's actually fought this dragon before, and it was basically, he barely survived. But he knows that he's fought a dragon, and so he's checking off this list of things that he needs to be a little bit more survivable. He spends the whole week gearing up. The other two, instead of doing research and stuff, instead of finding out what they need, instead of gearing their characters up in character, what they do is they lay low for that week. They basically don't play their characters. They hide out. I think the ideal is that so their characters couldn't be targeted in that intervening week, so as to delay things. Or maybe they just got busy. I don't know. They were playing other characters in channel, but towards the end of the week, everybody meets up again, and we've got a few more people that added on, including somebody hired from a local mining company in that same area who just shows up and randomly says, "Oh, my boss hired me to make sure you guys actually go have a chance at killing this dragon." So we also have some elf chick show up, and it's generic elven ranger, but she's pretty cool. So we set out. So we've got a generic elven ranger chick. We've got this woman who is she looks pretty badass, but she showed up out of the blue saying that she was hired by a mining company in the same area that we're going to free. And she looks basically like a rogue and scout. She's a guide. Then we've got my badass dwarf, my chaotic evil murder hobo dwarf. And then we've got a city guard. And then we've got this badass mercenary. And so 5 people rolling out there on horses. Or rolling out there on the way. And so the first thing that the rest of the group should have taken away from this is that when they said, "Oh, we need horses," my chaotic evil character walks into the stable and comes back with somebody else's horse. He just goes up and horse jacks someone. "I got my horse. I'm taken care of. The rest of you fellas better find a way to get up there, or you end up walking." So eventually everybody gets horses settled and we start off. So we pass the city gates. And again, the theme of this is consequences in role-playing. During that entire week, the newly minted city guard character was expecting to go on this trip that might take months. Guess how many times he actually in character, either face-to-face or through a post on our forums, how many times he actually alerted his superiors that he was going to take off from his job for a month and a half. Zero. He did not mention it at all. So we're rolling up to the gates, right? And the rest of the guards are making fun of him, saying, "Oh, hey, ain't you got patrol tomorrow? Hey, yeah, you should. I hope you ain't going very far." And so he quickly tries to retcon the idea that he sent a message to the captain of the guard, or to his commander, saying, "Yeah, I'm going to need a month and a half. I know you just hired me like a little less than a month ago, but I'm going to need to take a month and a half or so leave of absence to go hunt down this dragon." Didn't even say face to face. Didn't even, because this is just a spur of the moment thing. He's like, "Yeah, I left a letter for the superior." And some of us were just shaking our heads going, "Holy shit. What would happen if in real life you got hired for a situation like that, and then within a month you didn't even talk to your boss. You just started going on vacation and left a note." Not even a vacation, just an unscheduled sabbatical of like a month. And so he says, no, I left a message with the commander. And so the person that plays the commander is actually in channel. So he goes, okay, what did you write him? And so this guard character spends 15-20 minutes very quickly trying to decide what his character could have possibly written that would make this okay, or he could leave town on a new job for a month out of the blue without even talking to him face to face. And so he eventually puts this letter to the captain of the guard. He fills it out. It's not very good. The person who plays the captain, not the captain, but the person that plays his commander is laughing his ass off, saying, yeah, this isn't going to fly. This guy's going to get so fired when he gets back. And so they go on from there. So as soon as they leave the city, and another thing is, while they're leaving and everybody's chatting with the guards, my chaotic evil dwarf, my dwarf that is so wanted, just quietly puts his hood up and just gets very, very quiet. And this is not a guy that's been quiet this entire expedition, but he goes dead fucking silent as they walk under those guards. And he just lets everybody else chat up, throw insults back and forth, make fun of the guy that's going to get his ass fired as soon as he gets back. And my dwarf just goes dead quiet. Because I know, quite frankly, that my dwarf is a wanted criminal. And as long as those guards are distracted, I can justify the fact that he's just walking on by. And in fact, since the guards are played by other players in the channel, if they didn't notice my character, then they will not have noticed him in character. That's the beauty of it. So my chaotic evil murder dwarf just walks on, just rides on past. There's a reason why he's been wanted all this time and not been caught. It's because he knows how to keep his yap shut when shit like that happens. So I get outside the city gates. My dwarf pulls his hood back, and the guard says, "Oh yeah, you're wanted, aren't you?" And my dwarf says, "Yeah, that's why I let you guys talk. I let you guys talk to them guards. Didn't want to interfere or nothing." So that went by, and they still say nothing. The rest of the group, and it's funny at this point because the guy that plays the guard that's with us did not tell the new people that my character was a wanted criminal. So all of a sudden they're going, "Wait, we're traveling with a wanted criminal? Is this all right?" And the guard's like, "Yeah, sure, it's okay. He's gonna help us kill this dragon." So everybody gets real uneasy. And so they turn to the guard and say, "Okay, how are we gonna get there?" And they were expecting a teleport or something. But the wizard that was going to teleport them backed off in character because they couldn't tell where they were going to get teleported to because they don't know. They don't know where this dragon's lair is. All they know is that he's in this area about the size of a U.S. state. I don't know whether a big state or a small state, but it's a fair-sized area. And I want to say like one of the Midwestern states. So they know it's a huge area it could be in. But they don't know anything else. And so everybody's like, "Oh man, this expedition sucks already." So we spent another half an hour talking back and forth about what our plans are and how to get up there. And finally, I'm like, I have my character go, "Well, you know what? We got a guide. We got horses. We got supplies. Let's just freaking take the road there." And they're like, "Okay, whatever." So we all trudge along the road. And so we role play for another half hour, just chit chat and banter and setting up how we're going to scout and how we're going to proceed. By this time, this quick dragon kill has been turned into an hour and a half of role playing, during which nothing really happened, except getting out of the city, some character interactions. But a lot of these people that had signed up were really kind of hoping for a quick action sequence. Like you go in there, you instantly have an epic battle. And it just doesn't work that way. There are several good adventures all about tracking down dragons. And it's a thing for a campaign to track down a dragon. I mean, unless it's a very obvious dragon. A lot of times you can spend 10 levels, 7, 8, 9 levels just preparing for the dragon, finding out where it lives, finding out what it does, and then going after it. So all of these people were getting really impatient and really hoping for some sort of quick action sequence. And I think that contributes to what happens next. Because what happens next is that as evening presses on and it starts to rain and these people are just very miserable, this adventure party is very miserable as they ride on through the countryside. And they find an encampment that has recently been abandoned. And the GM, the mod that is running this thing, asks me, would Grimblade know about encampments that he finds in the woods? Because he is an outlaw. He has been out there for a while. And would the ranger know? And the ranger says, yeah, I would know, because this is what I do. I'm a ranger. And I say, well, ordinarily, if Grimblade came across an encampment, he would pass by and try to camp somewhere else where nobody's been. But since I've got a group with me, he feels a little bit more confident, so he's just going to kick back and relax and let the other people decide. So the other people decide to camp, and the mod tells the ranger this is a freshly abandoned camp of the Border Watch. Now, the Border Watch in this setting are kind of like law enforcement out in the wilds. They're the rangers. They're the guys that go track down people like my fucking dwarf. Okay? They're the ones that bring them in. They're the Texas Rangers of this particular setting. And so, they're the marshals of this thing. They go out there and get shit done. So we set up this encampment on the recently abandoned Border Watch encampment. And it turns out that the reason it was recently abandoned was because the Border Watch saw our group coming from a mile away and decided to back off and figure out what we were doing, because we're a heavily armed group moving through the countryside. And so they close in and they pull aside. They say, okay, who's your party leader? Tell us what your purpose is walking through the land with all, armed to the teeth. And so our party leader is the city guard. So the city guard walks out and he's chatting with the Border Watch, saying, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and kill a dragon up in Ruth Barn. He tells the Border Watch where we're going, what we're doing. Now, all this time, my dwarf was caught with his hood down. So he's a Duergar. He is a dark-skinned, bald-headed, white-bearded dwarf that's all scarred to fuck, that matches the description of a known mass murderer. And so the rest of the Border Watch are looking to one another going, who is this guy? Wait a minute, is he wanted? And so the leader of the Border Watch comes right out and says to the leader of our little dragon hunting party, the city guard, he says, by the way, that dwarf you guys are accompanying, what's his story? What's his name? And so the city guard, the guy who should know better, chimes up and says, oh, that's Grimblade. You might have heard of him. But he's okay right now. So the Border Watch all of a sudden freaks the fuck out. And they're like, oh shit, it's that dwarf we've heard about. It's that Duergar we've heard about. And so they all close in to arrest my Duergar. And I'm thinking, well, what do I do now? Because the rest of the group is not in trouble with the law. In fact, they have a city guard there. All of the rest of the group they're either neutral or good aligned from the sound of it. And my guy's a mass murdering dwarf, and now he's about to get arrested. Except I don't want him to get arrested because, quite frankly, I think he has a chance to fight his way out. So I'm thinking, what I think I'll have him do is fight his way out and then rejoin the party when they continue. So as soon as the first Border Watch comes right up to put a crossbow against him, right up in my guy's face, like drop your weapon. And so I have my Duergar say, yeah, drop this, and just he takes a crossbow bolt to the fucking arm, just manhandling this guy with his weapon, and just grabbing him. And I should note that I've mentioned his sword before. That was the sword of, the drains life and shit. He's got a couple other magic items. One's a dagger of venom. It's barely used, right? But the other magic item, and this is going to make a lot of people laugh that know first edition D&D, is a belt of giant strength. I think it's a belt of stone giant strength. I've got it written down somewhere. But it doesn't matter for purposes of freeform. It's a belt of giant strength. So all of a sudden, this dwarf just grabs this fucking Border Watch and just crushes his arm and then whips him around like a fucking flail, right? At which point I expect, okay, so they're going to shoot at me, and I'm going to take a few hits, but I'm probably going to get away. I'm probably going to be very wounded, but I'm probably going to get away just in time to go ahead and pop the Duergar's invisibility that lets them become invisible for a short amount of time. What I didn't expect was as soon as I grabbed that Border Watch guy, everybody else attacked. My entire party jumped these border guards. The lawful good, or I don't know if there was lawful good, but I know the ranger, the good ranger, jumped a border guard. The city guard jumped a border watchman. The mercenary jumped a border watchman. And the only person that didn't jump anyone was the fucking guide, right? So all of a sudden we've got this massive melee where people are just throwing attacks left and right. And I'm sitting there going, holy shit, did they just do that? And the other mods are sitting there in the mod channel going, oh my god, they're murdering the fucking border watch. They're defending a known criminal. Oh my god. And I'm like, well, it won't be so bad. Of course, I'm playing the character that's already wanted, right? It won't be so bad. All we gotta do is kill them. All we gotta do is kill them all. Make sure there's no survivors. Fight goes on. And not only does the group kill these border watch, but they do so in a gruesomely efficient manner. The only thing is that two of them run away. One of them was mortally wounded, but the other one just nopes the fuck out and runs off into the woods. So now reality sets in after all is quiet, and they turn around and look to Grimblade, my dwarf, and they say, why did they try to arrest you? And my dwarf says, well, I told our party leader that we might have trouble with I'm not on good terms with the guard. I mean, I told him that I'm a wanted man. And they all turn to him, and he's like, well, whatever, we're going to go ahead and continue. And I'm sitting there going, holy crap, they wiped out almost an entire squad of basically elite rangers. They're going to be so wanted. And one of them is a city guard who walked off of his post to adventure with a known criminal, ended up killing some border watchmen, and told the one that escaped where they were going. Oh my god. So, end result is that the party in general, but especially the city guardsmen, are so fucked at this moment. And my dwarf's just chilling. He's like, yeah, welcome to the wonderful world of being an outlaw. Hope you guys enjoy being killed on sight in the cities, because I've been that way for a while. And so they start riding off back towards Worthmarna, and my guy's like, we may want to get off the road now because they know where we're going, and we got a couple watchmen up ahead, watch posts up ahead there. They're going to be looking out for us. And so like, well, yeah, maybe we should get off the road. And I say, they're going to be sending search parties out here pretty soon. And they're like, yeah, we may want to consider that too. And all of a sudden, the consequences of what they'd done just kind of settled in like a heavy cloud, and just made everybody really consider what their futures of their characters were. And it was interesting because I think, as I said before, there was upwards of an hour and a half to 2 hours of role-playing ahead of this in which there was no action. So I think what basically happened was that people got bored and decided to attack the first thing that aggroed, and it just happened to be my character, my chaotic evil character. And as a result, they basically fucked over the entire group. Now, it did end up resolving itself. What happened was the party basically, my character was like, well, if you guys can't cut it, you guys can go do whatever you want. So they basically started flaking off, or the scout decided that it was the first. Our scout decided, fuck these guys, they're all criminals, and just ran off into the rain and never came back. And the party leader was like, she'll be back. And my guy was like, nah, she's gone. She's gone. She's gone. You can write her off. She took off. And then he decides, while we're camping, while we're sleeping, the very next camp, he decides, oh, I guess I better have my character turn himself in. Maybe the guards will go lenient on him. And I'm sitting there going, so you're saying that abandoning your post in a time of danger, because the city that we came from is actually in a time of danger, abandoning your post to go on a random dragon hunt, randomly just deciding to tell your boss that you're taking this leave of absence, then going out and traveling with a known criminal and then slaughtering the border watch. Yeah, I don't think that turning yourself in is going to reduce your sentence already, because I mean, of all those stuff, you've got 5 counts that would have you dangling at the end of a rope. But whatever, your character's already gone. He left while everybody was sleeping. At which point, the elf and the mercenary were like, I think we're going to head off this way and take our chances. And my dwarf was like, you know what? This ended like every pickup group pretty much imaginable. Everybody disperses before we get to the actual area. So sure, why not? I'm just going to continue onward because I got people to meet. So the party broke up then. I think what ended up happening was the city guard went back, found out he was going to be executed, so he basically begged on the magistrate, said, look, it was all me and the dwarf's fault. Don't put the rest of these people up. And I think that was a stand-up thing. So he basically used his character to buy the playability of a couple other characters back. So I think it ended up pretty well. Although I don't know what was going through his head, what kind of world he lived in where that would be okay. But actions in role-playing have consequences. If you're gonna play a murder hobo, expect to be treated like a murder hobo. If you attack the city guard, or if you attack the border watch in this case, expect to be a wanted criminal, especially if one leaves. If you throw spells in the middle of crowded situations, expect to catch innocents, that sort of thing. Role-playing, even in its loosest form, should have as a component reactions for your character's actions. And the reason I actually brought this up is because I've seen a lot of, aside from the amusing stories, I've seen a lot of posts, especially in recent years, especially in, oddly enough, like Pathfinder and 4th editions type forums, that basically say your player character should be able to get away with anything. The DM should never punish your player characters for their actions. And I think that is just outright, wrong. We're talking about freeform with these stories. This is one of the most open style of role-playing you can have. It doesn't even have dice rules. And yet, if you want to take a look at it, you want to be realistic about it, a character's actions will have consequences. And those characters will have to face those consequences. I expect my dwarf to be killed messily someday. I look forward to the day where the guard finally catches up with his ass in a manner that is not in his favor. It's going to be an epic fight. He's going to die. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'll have played this character for 8 years and had fun doing it. And he's a name that'll have been remembered throughout. Consequences are decent sometimes, even if they end up in character death. They make for an epic storyline. So, it's just food for thought. It's just a minor rambling, me telling a story. If you've got any ideas for this series name, wherein I just occasionally come on and do a video log of a role-playing incident that I've come across, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. I have been racking my brains for it. I can't really think about anything better than RPG Storytime. I think I'm going to leave it there, though. For now, this has been the RPG Crawler. If you like what you've seen, remember to throw a like, comment if you got feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content. And watch out for killer dwarves. Until next time, take care and goodbye.